Hey guys, welcome to the channel. So today we gonna talk about the web novel chapter 207. So without wasting time, let's begin the video. 2 hours after the battle started, the battlefield had fallen into a stalemate. At first the giants pushed against the Immortal Legion, making use of their size, crushing the skeletons as though twigs, but as time passed the situation changed like the flip of a coin. Because of Adalman's usage of his undead magic's ultimate arts, using the scattered bodies of the skeletons, giant skeletons were summoned. On the outer walls, which have been enchanted with a barrier which prevents intrusion from monsters, Xian was standing atop the highest point and viewing the battlefield with a bird's-eye view. At first they thought they might be able to achieve an overwhelming victory. But according to Adalman's report, the giants showed no fear. Then he reported something even more troublesome, their super regeneration. This is troublesome, Xian thought, as she bit her lip. Standing by behind her were Dagura, Ryura and Deborah. What they were looking at was an individual who looks like a commanding officer of Dagruel's forces, who was locked in a duel with Albert. The officer wielded a great sword like it was part of his body. He showed great pride in his strength, setting him apart from his peers. It looks like Albert is the only one able to stand up against him. The man moved nimbly and skillfully, uncharacteristic of his bulky build at 3 meters in height. What a strength! To think there would be a warrior who lives by the sword among the giants. Right. That's our old man's adjutant, Uncle Grossword. Dagura answered, from hearing what Xian muttered. Grossword. An ultra first-rate two-handed sword user. And, the second in command of the giant forces. Though his total energy levels are lower than Dagruel, it is said that his swordsmanship is at a higher level instead. If you look at it from another perspective, it might be Albert who is the abnormal one, being able to cross swords with such an individual. Albert was parrying heavy attacks that would normally crush opponents as though a flowing willow. He's even adding in counter attacks. It was a feat possible only due to the full set of God's class equipment he was bestowed with. That was because if it was equipment of Legend class or below, it would have shattered from receiving the first attack. And Albert being the only one able to put up a proper fight against him was a coincidence that was nothing short of a miracle. But, it was ironic that nobody knew. The fact that this coincidence has been narrowly preventing the collapse of the front lines, if you can call it irony, that is. Our old man ain't making his move. Should we move and face him, if he actually shows movement? Don't be getting excited just yet. It's obvious, but I'll be the one to face him. You boys lead the Terror Knights and prevent any potential interruptions. Roger that. But, it's better to not underestimate our old man. Though Nissan might be pretty powerful, our old man's a real monster. Xian and Co had such exchanges, while they turned their attention to the main enemy encampment. There were no signs of movement. But, that instead gave off an extremely ominous atmosphere. It still didn't feel like the proper opportunity to move her elite forces yet, but the present situation isn't going to change from them just staring at it. The frustration was starting to set in on Xian. Should I just go with an all-out attack? Right as Xian was contemplating such thoughts, suddenly, a change to the situation occurred. The change was as intense as it was sudden. That's. Hearing Ryura's muttering, Xian, who was looking at Albert and Grossword's battle, diverted her attention. A certain individual was walking out from Dagruel's main encampment. Wrapped in layer upon layer of chains, was a man who looks like he lost too much weight. But, despite being chained all over, the intense presence coming from him drew more attention than any other giant could. Their natural instincts were appealing desperately, at how dangerous that man is. They began observing that individual. There was a smile on the man's face, even though he looked like he was heavily restricted by the weird chains. The kind of smile that showed just how elated a person is. A simple probe showed that his predicted energy levels surpassed Dagruel. Xian was surprised. Though there were many beings that had high energy levels among her comrades, this made them look like children in comparison. As Xian was thinking that, something happened to the chained man. The chains were being released. Those chains, is that Gleipnir? If that's the case, this would be pretty dangerous. Yes, Gadra Raushi, who has been standing by behind them, spoke up to Xian. Oh, it's Gadraha. So, what's that Gleipnir? Gleipnir are the names of the chains of God. Gleipnir. Chains that sealed an evil god who emitted immense amounts of energy. If the legends are true, the chains will have been absorbing the energy emitted from the evil god, and have evolved. But, what was truly terrifying, was not the chains. The evil god which was sealed by those very chains, was what they needed to be wary of. Do you think the stories are true? I am afraid so. My advice for the best course of action, would be to retreat. Xian frowned, at Gadra's submissive view. But, it wasn't out of anger. For someone as aged and knowledgeable as Gadra, there was a certain weight for him to give such advice to Xian, whom he is fully aware of her aggressive nature. That was a warning, coming from someone who knows how capable the 12 guardians are. We will not retreat. We have been given orders from Rimuru-sama to defend these lands. To retreat would be to go against Rimuru-sama's will. We have our orders, and we shall not fail to execute them. This represents our faith in Rimuru-sama, and also serves to prove that Rimuru-sama's strategies are the proper answer. Any objections? There are none. Alright, that's right, retreat was out of the question. Meanwhile, Fen makes his move. He traverses the battlefield at incredible speeds, moving as though he was the wind itself, and finishes his sprint by launching an offensive against Adalman, who was at the rear lines supporting his allies with magic. Adalman, who was supposed to be protected by many layers of magic barriers, was knocked onto the ground in a single blow. The battlefield was visited by a terrifying silence. Impossible. What speed? No, power? Adalman constantly protects himself with a myriad of magic barriers. How did he? Xian shouted. Though Death Dragon Wenti immediately went to Adalman's aid, she too was sent flying from a simple aura bullet released from Fen's palm. What an enemy! I need to head to his aid soon. Just as Xian was thinking about that, to still spectating, in front of me. That's some composure you got there? Xian hears a voice behind her. This is Xian's main camp, so having multiple defensive barriers in place is a no-brainer. It is possible to ignore all of those barriers, and in addition, to be able to stand behind Xian without her even realizing it? There's no way that's possible. As Xian thought, and she turns around. There stood a towering giant. Standing right on the peripheral wall, right behind Xian. With his sturdy 3 meters tall build, it was Demon Lord Dagruel. Famu. I have arrived here, just moments earlier. Could it be that you didn't see me arrive? If that's the case, this won't even be a fight. It's starting to feel like a joke trying to take this seriously. This can't be. I'm not believing this. Xian drew her sword as she shouted. Impossible. Xian was trying to calm herself down by telling herself, he must be bluffing. There was no way she was going to accept the fact that a giant just moved to such close proximity of herself without her even managing to see it happen. Accepting this fact was almost equal to accepting her defeat. Xian activates her unique skill chef, and using its matter-altering properties, she boosts her own stats. Having reached the output range of an ultimate skill, Xian unleashes a single attack with everything she had. Xian was planning to defeat Dagruel with this very attack. This is bad. The anti-monster barrier on this peripheral wall is going to get blown away with that attack. Gadra shouted, as he gets the elite guard to retreat. Even as she was confirming what was happening at the corner of her vision, Xian went ahead with her slash onto Dagruel. Dagruel didn't even move, and, at the very moment Xian's blade was about to make contact with his head. How naive! He roared. With enough fighting spirit to shake his surroundings, that pressure alone stopped Xian's swing. Because of his incredibly dense fighting spirit, Xian's attack didn't even manage to so much as touch Dagruel's skin. With that as his final words for her, he moved towards Xian at speeds she could not perceive and swung his fist down on her. The peripheral wall crumbles, to the might of his violence. What happened to Xian, who took a direct hit, was obvious. This was not something that could be called a fight. This was what could be seen as an absolute being making use of his strength to sweep away an annoyance. But, at that moment, looks like you're the one who is naive. With the sweet scent of roses, a red streak of light flashes and makes contact with Dagruel's head. From there, descended a silver-haired girl. Demon Lord Ruminus. This was the very moment the ruler of these lands joined the battle. People like you usually show openings at the moment of triumph. As it was a problem for me to break through your defenses, I was observing the situation and letting it pan out, waiting for my opportunity. Looks like you were careless, Dagruel. She unleashed her most devastating attack on the careless Dagruel. Famu. So it's Ruminus, huh? And you are right, that I had been careless. But, could you really say that has been a problem? Did that attack actually damage me? Those words caused her to freeze up. Are you all done now? Now then, it's my turn next. Brace yourselves. Or it will be over in an instant. As they have not been able to defeat him even with Rumina's attack, it was a fact that Rumina's forces would be unable to attain the victory. A period of despair was beginning. On these lands, the absolute tyranny of Demon Lord Dagruel was about to sweep across the battlefield. So guys, this was all for today's video. Hope you enjoyed this chapter. Thanks for watching.